So, the other comment said that the vast majority of people probably can find a passing sound, and I think that's completely true. In fact, I don't think I've yet met anyone that's not capable of finding a passing sound. Um, you know, even people that like come in to like work with me, like voices that are like pretty heavy with like low resonance, and like I struggle to go heavier than that, and like I've seen people with heavier voices than that, be able to find pretty thin sounds, right? So finding thin sounds is probably the first step of things. When I say thin sounds, I just kind of mean soft sounds. An example of that would be kind of like, right? And you might hear that it's kind of like teetering on the edge of fading in and out, right? Finding and looking for sounds like that are often a good first step. And you're listening to that and you're thinking, what are they on about? They don't know what they're talking about. That that sound was nice and low. Not low. So that sound had a low resonance, right? So resonance is definitely one of the more important factors when it comes to voice. But it's important to kind of remember that it's not the only relevant factor, and also that sometimes when we play with resonance, it has a tendency to introduce issues, right? So we want to practice finding kind of clean, soft sounds first, in my experience. So what again, that might sound like right, but what can we do with that sound? So I'm just gonna go 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 go, right, and I can start playing with resonance on top of that. Go 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 go, yo yo, and then I could go from the go to the yo, and this voice sounds kind of like a woman's voice. I don't know how you find this voice. Well, what was that sound? Okay, but I don't know how you gendered that voice personally. I mean, I think that you'd be hard pressed to kind of go, that's a guy's voice, but whatever. Everybody's suits their own, whatever. So what I'm saying is, in the UK, that voice would pass fine, right? What we could kind of do, right, is kind of and even in voices, even in scenarios where people can't get to like there, which is honestly probably pretty achievable for like 99.9% of trans femme people, um, then in that scenario, right, there's other options that are available to them. So, you know, the can I even make that voice while I'm down here? So, um, uh, yes. So, if I go to the kind of extreme, if somebody's really struggling to find higher pitches or something like that, not that a pitch is that important of a variable, then it's more than reasonable to assume they might be able to get sound like that, right? Um, and that's kind of the extreme, right? Um, in fact, at that point, it starts to kind of become a little bit harder, and that pitch was probably lower than most people. And that voice probably sounded like an older woman's, maybe a grandma who's been chain smoking for a few years voice, right? It's somewhat similar to kind of like Shora Agardashilu's voice, um, who played something in The Expanse. If you've seen that show, um, a kind of like slightly higher example would be like, he's dangerous to you now. Do you understand? Go home. There's plenty more like him in the East and West Wing. And that voice, like, if that's coming from like a slightly older woman, then honestly that voice kind of sounds passing, right? And people have this expectation, especially when it comes to kind of like people who are taller, e.g., trans women, for voices to be kind of lower. This is because when you're bigger, vocal anatomy is bigger, and therefore stuff tends to kind of like go down in pitch and kind of go down in resonance and go heavier in weight, right? So being mindful of that stuff, right? And then there's other mixes, right? You might be able to find, even if your maybe resonance is just letting you down, you can't do that stuff, right? You might be able to find a kind of like so 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 um so so a sound like this, kind of like soft, relatively low resonance. If if I take it this far, it probably gets into clocky territory, but if I kind of take it up to here a little bit, this isn't really that high. In fact, I might even be able to take it lower at times. If I do, it's going to kind of mix of these kind of sounds, then it might let me take it lower down to here. That might have been pushing it a little bit too far, but like, I'm yet to meet anyone who hasn't been able to get a passing sound, right? And even in those scenarios, it's like, no, I just haven't, right? I just don't really believe that, like, given enough time and effort, that people are incapable of finding passing sounds, right? You know, I think that you're probably gonna be all right. It's probably just a sign that your kind of teacher's not that experienced, or they're bad. I don't know. I don't really think that's like true at all. What they said. I haven't heard your voice obviously, but like, even in people that like start super low, I'm yet to see anyone kind of have a voice that they weren't even able to get into like a passing range from practice. So it's probably a chance. It's probably a sign that your like person was not super great. But yeah, oh well.